The place you live in is a great representation of who you are as a person. It could expose your preferences, cleanliness levels, financial position, pet peeves, and a lot more. It wouldn't be wrong to say that your building is actually the window to who you are as an individual. But ever wondered what could be so different and terrorizing about a psychopath's building than your regular neighbors? And that to not any psychopath's building, we are talking about the Milwaukee cannibal Jeffrey Dahmer's building. The officers and forensic department who had to inspect the serial killer's building had to undergo specialist counseling to recover properly from the horrors of what they witnessed in his building. The dawn of July 22, 1991 marked the beginning of the end for Jeffrey Dahmer. What was supposed to be one of his casual days in his apartment for the serial murderer in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, ended up being one of the biggest and most horrifying apartment tours in human history. Jeffrey Dahmer, a middle-aged gay guy in his 30s who lived in room number 213 of the 25th Street, had invited his friend Tracy Edwards to stop by his apartment for a nude photo shoot in exchange for $100. Edwards, who as a father of 6, accepted the offer and agreed to go back to Dahmer's apartment for a beer. One of the first indications that should have been a red flag to Tracy was the awful smell from Jeffrey's apartment. He had pointed this out and even questioned Dahmer about why the apartment smelled so disgusting as soon as he walked through the door. But a prepared Dahmer quickly lied about the topic and explained that the plumbing in the building was off and the management was dealing with a broken sewer pipe. The pair then proceeded to drink together for a while. In the background of the setup was The Exorcist 3, Dahmer's favorite film, playing on the TV. There were many things off about the building in itself. The windows were all screwed shut, a mean-looking drill machine was casually left on the counter, and a big barrel sat in the corner of the bedroom. If these weren't enough, ropes, restraints, hammers, and saws were all scattered around the living room like decorative pieces. A normal person would have gotten an idea that they aren't with a completely sane guy, but Tracy was distracted by Dahmer with his pet fish in his fish tank. It might come across as surprising that a guy with no amounts of empathy would actually own a pet, but Dahmer had his own messed up way of owing them. The sex offender would often enjoy touching the organs of these fishes as he has a fetish for organs. A drunk and distracted Tracy turned into an easy target for Dahmer, who pulled out a knife and forced a pair of handcuffs on him. Dahmer then suddenly switched characters and appeared to slip into a demonic trance-like state. The guy started rocking back and forth maniacally and chanting to himself. It was time for the serial killer to reveal his true sadistic self. One of the underlying themes and testimonies of many surviving victims explain how they particularly remember the exact moment the switch in the serial killer's persona. The beautiful mask of superficial charm slides away and enters the scary monster in front of their eyes. Both Dahmer and Edwards got into a tussle as they tried to overpower each other. A very disturbing recollection from the testimony was Edwards confessing that Dahmer screamed at him that he was going to eat his heart. Edwards' entire life flashed in front of his eyes as he was convinced that his life was about to end. His only hope was to at least die fighting. After a lot of pleading and begging, Edwards managed to persuade Dahmer to let him go to the bathroom. Seizing on the only opportunity, he escaped into the hallway and out the building with all his might. Luckily for him, he saw a couple of Milwaukee police officers who were passing by. Dahmer, with sheer panic in his eyes and handcuffs in his hands, ran towards the officers. The officers tried to get the handcuffs off Edwards using their own key, but it clearly didn't work. So instead, they agreed to walk with Edwards back to Dahmer's apartment to try and find a key. Once inside the apartment, the Milwaukee police officers, Robert Roth and Rolf Mueller, asked Dahmer where the key for the handcuffs was. Officer Mueller, who found the apartment rather suspicious, started raiding it and went into the bedroom. This is where he noticed a large knife under the bed of the serial killer. In spite of being extremely weird and unnatural, Mueller kept inspecting around to understand what was the real mystery behind this creepy apartment. He had also noticed in the bedside dresser table a set of Polaroid pictures pictures. A quick flash through those made him realize that the pictures matched the interior of the apartment he was standing in. But what he witnessed when he took a slightly better look will for sure give you the worst nightmares. The Polaroids were photo evidence of the victims who were decapitated, dismembered, and posed in disturbing positions. In total, there were 74 Polaroids as part of this traumatic and twisted collection. It wasn't long enough when Dahmer had realized that his secret was unraveled. As he saw Mueller holding his twisted photo collection, he tried hard to escape from the apartment but was swiftly restrained on the floor by the officers. While a second squad car was on the way, Mueller went to discover the real reason behind the stench in the apartment and where it was coming from. As he unexpectedly opened his fridge door during the raid, what lay in front of him was a scene he wishes he never had eyes on: a severed head of a victim staring right back at him. The entire investigation was just more terrifying as it progressed, where the officials uncovered at least 11 corpses. There was a pan on the stove which you might think is a regular sight, but it retained boiled human brains. Hands and feet of his victims had been boiled in another pan. An alarming 3 human heads were found in the fridge. The bottom drawers of one cabinet also contained a whole human skeleton, and plastic bags contained many severed limbs. Whilst crime scene technicians worked through the night to piece together exactly what had taken place at apartment 213, Dahmer was simultaneously interviewed at the Milwaukee police station. His creepy interview lasted 6 hours, between 1:30 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. Detective Patrick Kennedy, the first detective who interviewed Dahmer, couldn't believe his confessions and thought everything was fake. He was like, he's making it all up. This cannot be real. But the gruesome bags and bags of evidence that kept coming out of his apartment said a different tale. One crime scene technician later said it was more like dismantling someone's museum than an actual crime scene. Over the next 2 weeks, the monster worked side by side with the detectives as they studied the Polaroids taken of the victims and also photographs of the missing individuals to help identify every victim that had died at his hands. But a question might arise. What exactly was it about this building and this location? Did Dahmer have something in mind for choosing them? When these horrifying crimes all came out in the open air, the media coverage was painfully intense. The craze to witness and experience anything related to the killer was crazy. In fact, there were people willing to pay $50 each to sit on a couch that the serial killer had given to a neighbor. People were also willing to pay just to hold a glass that the serial killer had a drink of water from. Diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, and psychotic disorder, Dahmer was convicted of 15 of the 16 murders he had committed in Wisconsin and was sentenced to 15 terms of life imprisonment on February 17, 1992. Dahmer was later sentenced to a 16th term of life imprisonment for an additional homicide committed in Ohio in 1978. However, a man with this kind of blood in his hands doesn't deserve a peaceful death behind bars. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by Christopher Scarver, a fellow inmate at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. And what happened to his apartment? For obvious reasons, no one else wanted to live or rent out the building where Dahmer carried out his certifying crimes. It was demolished after several tenants vacated the premises. And that's it for today, guys. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please click on the like button and share it with your friends and family. What do you think about Jeffrey Dahmer and his horrible murders? Please let us know in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see even more of our incredible videos. You can also check out our other videos that have been specifically selected for you. We'll catch up in the next video.